to another episode of Tales of Agmar, where we are bringing back those good old days of sci-fi and fantasy storytelling. Today, we're coming back to the Ellonist Republic. We're going to kind of be here for a while. In case you haven't noticed already, we've still got a few more weeks to cover, because they are the largest faction. I've had a lot of time to flush stuff out, and I've broken it down so I could go into a little bit more detail, and then we'll go back and we'll hit some more of those finer points like gear blades. If you've been wondering where those guys are, that will be an episode that will come down a few weeks down the line. But anyways, to talk about what we got going with this week, first off, I just got to touch on a little bit of last week. I listened to the episode again, and I did realize that I did say Aster was good with a gun, and that helped her escape Bliss. That isn't quite the entire story. I was trying to not give all the details away so that I could still write a good book about it later in the future, but that also seemed to have made it kind of confusing. So how it worked is her hacking skills is what gets her off Bliss. Aster doesn't use a gun really to get off Bliss. She gets off that planet pretty non-combatively. She doesn't have to fight her way off it. And then she eventually gets good with the guns. Modern Aster in book 1, is good with a gun. Isn't excellent with a gun, right? But it's not like she can't hit anything, right? She can still hit stuff with a gun. But her hacking skills are still the big thing that she contributes to Gander and his team. However, how she got into the academy, aside from, manipulating test scores and everything, is they have a number of beginning aptitude tests, one of which is obviously shooting. After firing her rounds and everything, Aster went in and adjusted her score. So, when you can hack anything from anywhere, you can adjust your scores pretty easily. And so that's what she does. One other sort of lore refinement, as I guess I'm going to start calling these. Well, let me know what you think about that word, lore refinement, or I guess that's 2 words. But anyways, aces are now just going to be ace specialists. So that an individual person who's an ace would be an ace specialist. That way I don't have to have ace with the S at the end. So it's advanced combat engagement specialist operator, because that was a lot to say and kind of counterproductive word wise. So anyways, and I decided that after combing through a bunch of notes and everything that I had on Gander and his team and on the book and whatnot. So anyways, that's good to go. Still working on the book. As of time of recording, we have officially gone over the 25% mark for this draft. So we are getting very close to the beta reading. So hold on to your seats, and hopefully in the next couple months, I'll be able to bust through, finish combining all those notes, blend everything together, and it'll be ready for those beta readings. Also, I am working on the Discord. Don't worry about it. It's going to come out. If you haven't caught that yet, I'm doing a Discord. The Patreon also isn't going to be a thing. I'm just going to slowly phase that out, because I like the idea more of having just a free Discord, and I feel like more people use Discord for free stuff anyways. And so in a few weeks, that should be popping up. I just got to get a hold of my schedule and actually build a Discord with a good layout and everything. And then still debating Ko-Fi for funds and whatnot, but we'll get that going as time goes on. Sorry for all the announcements. I've got one more. I have started putting the podcast on YouTube, so I'm uploading the backlog of that in between recording this episode and writing it. And so if you want to see what it would look like on YouTube, feel free to. I do not have any visuals for that yet. It's just more of a waveform that pops up right now. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into what today's episode is exactly going to be. We're going to talk more about Ellonist Republic citizens and what the ranking system looks like. I touched on that last week, that Ellonist Republic citizens have a ranking system they go through, so we're going to dig into that. And we're also going to talk about Mace, who is Gander's best friend, and he and Gander take up a lot of the book together. And Mace is more of a background character, but he still has a huge role both in Gander's backstory and with what goes on inside of Tales of Agmar Gambit. So anyways, if you'll stick with me now, we're going to jump into those Ellonist citizen ranks. And so for that first rank, we've got, first off, I need to touch on the fact that it is called the Citizen Codex. All right, and it's got more than one rank. We're running with 7 ranks right now, and there might be some sub ranks that come in later as I'm still developing this. And it doesn't quite play too much in a role in book 1 because we don't spend that much time walking through Ellonist Citizen security. But anyways, we'll get rolling with this. So the first one is class 0. So it's called the Codex, and then each section of the Codex is a class. So class 0 is the lowest. Right here we actually have prisoners, and as soon as you become a prisoner, it doesn't matter what level you were before, you automatically get demoted down to 0, no matter how long your sentence is. So if your sentence isn't even that long, you're going to come out, you're going to be a class 0, you're going to have to start from the ground up all over again. Anyways, this is also where penal conscripts come from, right? Like criminals, maybe steal a loaf of bread or something, and you get caught, and you have to go pay off that debt, and you become an expeditionary. Your class gets set to 0. Now, up from that, we have class 6. So aside from 0 being the lowest, the higher your number is, the lower your class is compared to everyone else. The highest class would be class 1. But anyways, class 6, this is the base class of citizens, right? So if you're just an average Joe citizen of the Ellonist Republic, right? You start at class 6. You can't leave your planet. You can't even get into a spaceport if you wanted to unless your job is there. And you pretty much can't leave the immediate area of your planet. You're usually pretty locked down, especially if your planet has restricted areas or higher classed areas where more higher ranked citizens live, right? You can't go over there. So you get kind of stuck. And at class 6, you can still get conscripted to be an expeditionary pretty much whenever, but usually it's a conscription instead of, you own a debt and you're getting forced into it. Like, right, conscription is still being forced into it, but depending on what job you are running, you may or may not get forced into being an expeditionary, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So next, we're going to go to class 5. You get here pretty much if the planetary governor or whatever job you're running decides that you need to get up higher, like maybe you're a kind of lower level business executive, right? You need to be able to leave the planet. Can't really leave your sector, maybe you got to leave the planet for like meetings, or you actually work on a space elevator. You're usually going to be a class 5, a little bit higher ranked. You get access to more pay, access to easier ways to buy like food, shelter, etc., etc. And that's pretty much the end of level 5. So not too much of a difference between level 6 and level 5, just the fact that level 5 is a little bit better than level 6. So now level 4, if you or a loved one, right, becomes a Marine, so like someone in your immediate family, right, and that's like generation back and generation forward from you, well, more of like a generation forward from you, not so much like generation back. So right, like if you become a Marine, your extended family would not get bumped up, or like your mother and father, like your parents wouldn't get bumped up to class 4, but like your kids would get bumped up to class 4, right? And this is important because again, it gets you access to higher paying jobs, gives you the ability to get food easier, everything's better, security is a little bit tighter, you get access to more parts of the Ellonist Republic. That is because they assume that you are going to be more loyal to the Ellonist Republic, right? And you pretty much jump here regardless of your lower standing, right? So if you're level 6 and you become a Marine, or if you're an expeditionary, and even if you were a penal expeditionary and you somehow got promoted to a Marine, then you would jump to a class 4. Now, next is class 3. If you or, right, like your significant other ends up working for the government in like a high government position, you get bumped up to level 3. Same thing if you end up in higher ranks of the military, you get bumped up again to class 3, which, as everything else, better job, better resources, better access to other things, start getting access to more amenities, right? Class 3, just for reference, is where Gander lived his life for most of the time, thanks to the fact that his father was a Class 3 and worked for the government, right? And then Aster, for instance, would be at a Class 6, and that's where she started her life off, was a Class 6. Now, with Class 3, you get a passport that lets you travel just about anywhere inside the Ellonist Republic except for restricted zones at the capital and to test planets, unless you get different authorization to go to said test planet, right? So even if you are just Class 6 or Class 3, there's still some additional different ranks in there that get you access to different testing sites based off of what job you have. You just can't kind of go anywhere. Now we're going to talk about Class 2. There's pretty much only two groups of people that end up in Class 2. That's planetary governors and sector governors, as they are automatically put here. They stay here. Obviously, their families get to enjoy the benefits of Class 2, but they're still just Class 3 citizens at the end of the day. Now, Class 1, this is the highest, right? So the Chancellor, obviously, Class 1 citizen, extremely important. The Chancellor is also the only person that can appoint other people to Class 1. And so usually he's appointing maybe like an assistant, maybe he has, assassins or some other group of people to carry out his plan that they need full access to all parts of the Ellonist Republic. They get Class 1 authorization there. And by doing that, Class 1 people also get access to pretty much the entire military, can run whatever they need to, can take command of units, whatever, just by flashing the fact that they are a Class 1. And that pretty much covers up the citizen ranks. So now we're going to jump over and talk about Mace, kind of how he ended up being Gander's friend, what that looks like between him, and just a bit of his life. Now, for Mace, he started off as a lower ranked citizen. His family would start off as a Class 6 citizen, actually, but then his father became a Marine, right? So you get that big jump up to a Class 4, and I'm mostly talking about Mace going through the classes just so you could see what would happen for somebody if they were to jump through the class system, what that looks like, at least from a kid's perspective, right? So now he's a Class 4, they get better housing and everything. His father's a Marine, he's fighting off in different conflicts with different revolutionary groups, just expanding out the Ellonist Republic's reach, right? Well, eventually Mace's father builds up to the point where he's a well-respected Marine and extremely high ranking. He gets to the point where he's ranked enough to become a Class 3. That's how Mace ends up on Devos. Alright, so his family ends up moving there once his father becomes a Class 3. Most garden worlds are really reserved for Class 3 and up citizens, as they are usually the most loyal to the Ellonist Republic and will produce the most loyal aspects, also the highest athletic level for troops and pilots. All right, everything you need your super government-centric military to have, they are going to be producing at least the manpower for, as well as, of course, the high-ranking weapons, some bio research, and generally some of the more advanced stuff that the Ellonist Republic runs off of, like their more advanced, what are those called? Like consumer goods would be one, right? Like a skincare product is going to be made on a garden world. At least the idea of it is going to be made on a garden world. The full production of it would probably be on an urban world. But anyways, we won't bog ourselves too down with that. We're going to try to focus on Mace. Anyways, this about happens when Mace moves over to Devos in the equivalent of like grade school, right? So if you go through grade school, there's like 1 through 6 years of like a young kid, and you're usually like 12-ish by the time you graduate, right? So that's where Gander and Mace end up meeting, is pretty much in our equivalent of, like their equivalent of our grade school. That's when they meet. So just when they're kids, right? They keep hanging out, doing things together, become good friends, get their conveniently neighbors, makes it, really easy to hang out with someone when you're neighbors, right? And eventually, one day, Mace's father dies.
And thankfully, with inside the Ellonist Republic, once you reach a rank, there's only 2 ways to go down a rank. One way is you end up getting demoted inside the military, right? Then that could eventually knock you down to class 4 again if you got knocked down too low, or like you got court-martialed, that could knock you down. Not so much your family, but you as an individual would, especially if you become criminalized, right? And you get knocked down to class 0, then you start all the way from the bottom again. But that didn't happen to Mace, so instead they keep their class 3 status, they stay on Devos, they keep doing what they're doing, living their daily lives. And after Mace's father having died, and this kind of contributes to why Mace ends up joining the military in the first place, is because he wants to find out who killed his father and kind of get revenge for him, right? Sort of that classic revenge story for why a kid ends up joining the military. But to compound Mace's problems, eventually Zypox comes through onto Devos and takes out tons of people. Gander's father was working on a cure for Zypox at the time, which is one of many projects he ends up doing for the government. And he finds one near the end, but not until after Mace's mother dies. And so then Gander's father feels a little bit of remorse for that, a little bit of kind of like, man, if only I had gone faster, if I could have gotten it sooner, she could have lived. And so he takes in Mace as basically a second son. And Mace just ends up living with them for the next couple years until they graduate high school at their equivalent of 16, right? And then at that point, Gander and Mace end up participating in the trials, fulfill the trials, and end up going off to Ragash to begin their training, go through the ACE training during years 2 and 3 up there, and then go on their 2-year-long campaign with the Ellonist Republic, all the way up until the events of actually when they come back to Devos and a bunch of crap happens, and that's right where the beginning of Tales of Agmar Gambit starts. So definitely keep sticking around if you've read any of the summaries that I've released, like the little book summaries that you'd find on the back of the book when you're reading in a bookstore, like a library. I've toyed around with a few of those. I had dropped those on the Patreon. I'll probably drop them somewhere else where it's easier for more people to see as we keep going. But yeah, that really sums up Mace's backstory in a nutshell. We've got tons of great things coming. Aside from getting the YouTube up and running, I'm trying to get a few other socials up and running that will give you guys more places to interact with the cast, more ways to view the artwork that's coming. Hopefully we see some of that in the next month or two, just working out the finer details. I finally have some more ideas running of what I want. The ideas are out there, talking to the artists, and we will hopefully get that soon. And on top of all that, next week is going to be really exciting. It's going to generate tons of possible art pieces as well. And if you're a huge person that likes really weird, nerdy, obscene facts, you'll probably really like next week. I'm going to zoom over a lot of it so it doesn't bog down too many people. You get too many people stuck in a rut over it. Well, not that you'd be stuck in a rut over it, but I'll just tell you what it's about. We're going to talk about the Ellonist Republic's armory, their vehicles, their guns, their battle tactics. That the armory is really the vehicles and guns, right? And also armor. And then battle tactics, we'll kind of talk a little bit about more of what different squads look like, how their different arms combined, what sort of vehicles we're going to see. We're going to take a look at what their ships are, the classes of ships that we're pulling. I'll write up some short descriptions of them. I'm not going to take too long to describe them because that would take forever, but I'll get general shapes for you guys. And then hopefully as part of maybe the second or third wave of art and posts that I do, we will get some more of those bigger vehicles out there, things that will take a little bit longer, I would think anyways, to draw and get in a good frame and everything for you guys. But stick around, things are getting exciting, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for coming by.